This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
Most AI tools at work don't know anything about you. Every time, you're stuck re-explaining your projects, your team, what actually matters. Slack just fixed that. The all-new Slack bot is a personal AI agent built into Slack, and it starts with your context, your messages, files, and channels. Translation, an AI that already knows how you work. Check it out at slack.com.
If you're a heavy AI user like me, you always have your eye on the next big model release from one of the big players. And we've actually seen plenty of action on that front the last few days since the big model makers have started to work with the federal government and get the models actually released. As an example, we have Fable 5 now for a few more days. And we're going to have GPT-5.6 Sol in a couple of hours. And maybe we'll have Gemini 3.5 Pro any day now. But when I think about it, in those instances, we're actually just going from having a really great model to a model that's just a little bit better than the great model we had before, which when it comes to tracking AI releases, sure, that's helpful. But are any of these a step change or, really unlocking something that we didn't have before? And even with these great models, the honest answer is probably not. But this week, we actually got one of those AI features that I am beyond excited for, because we're going from having honestly not a good product at all when it came to real-time voice AI to now something that is finally good. So we're going to be going over that, the new OpenAI ChatGPT real-time voice model that's available now, as well as a bunch of other AI updates that you might have missed this week. So on today's show, in our weekly Friday features on Thursday roundup, you're going to learn why a new voice model may be a bigger deal than Fable 5 or GPT-5.6 Sol. You're going to learn how Meta may be quietly making its AI comeback. A lot of big releases from Meta this week. And you're going to see the new image model that's pushing the once untouchable ChatGPT images too. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to Everyday AI. My name is Jordan Wilson, and we do this thing, well, every day. This is your daily, unedited, unscripted live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping business leaders like you and me keep up with the nonstop avalanche of AI updates. I tell you what matters, what doesn't. You take that information. All of a sudden, you're the smart AI person in your company. You're welcome. Hey, to show appreciation, do me a favor. Go ahead, subscribe to the show here if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and make sure you go to our website at youreverydayai.com. We're going to be recapping the highlights from today's show. So if you hear one of these 7 AI features and you're like, wait, what was that? Yeah, it's going to be in the newsletter. So don't worry. All right. And hey, FYI, we're doing this a little different this week. Normally we do the Friday AI features show on Friday. But in our newsletter, I put out a poll yesterday, and well, we know that ChatGPT's new model, GPT-5.6 Sol, is going to be released, well, today. So on our Friday show, we're going to be going over that new model. So today we're doing our Thursday features. So you guys voted for it overwhelmingly. For the most part, I just work for you guys. So yeah, if you are a podcast listener and not on the newsletter, you got to get on the newsletter because you're just directing me. I'm like your human agent that just, goes to work for you. All right. So let's get into it and go over the new features. All right. So the big one, and I think I mean it, this one, technically, in terms of unlocking some new AI capability for our work that we didn't have before. Yes, I mean, you can make the argument Fable was such a big jump, or, the original like O1 and O3 models from OpenAI were a big jump. And yes, they were. And yes, people are excited to have Fable 5 back for a couple more days under subscription plans. And, we're going to be getting GPT-5.6 Sol any minute here. But I think the new GPT-Live voice model may actually be one of the biggest step forward in day-to-day AI use that we've had in a very long time. That's, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, the models before were just really bad, right? ChatGPT's original voice mode, when it came out, it was like, oh, kind of cool. And then you had your advanced voice mode for the last like 2 years, and it's just really not good, right? Gemini Live, not really good. Claude has a voice mode, not really good. At least, especially from the big players, there just hasn't been a great voice, AI voice assistant that you can talk to, that can pull real time information from the web, that can work with the conversation and the context that you give it. We just haven't had that, which is crazy, right? Because people are getting more and more comfortable dictating versus typing. So now this one, exciting, GPT Live. It is out now. It's new. Let's talk. So here's what's new. OpenAI killed the kind of turn-based, kind of walkie-talkie voice mode and replaced it with the new GPT Live, which is a duplex model, what they're calling it. It listens and it talks at the same time. So it also does this like back channeling like a human. So as you're talking, it'll say things like, got it, right? And then it redecides several times per second whether to speak, keep listening, pause, interrupt, or call a tool, like to, look in the context of your conversation, to look on the web, etc. Also, it pulls in GPT 5.5 at the same time for web search and heavier reasoning. So before, obviously, the voice models, what they worked on, I think over the last 2023 to 2025 was just making the voices sound more realistic and a little less latency, which is like, that's cool and all. But if they don't know left from right, if they don't know what day it is, if they can't look up real-time information, what good is it? So that's what's different with this new model from OpenAI. So here is from OpenAI's blog post what they said. They said, we're launching GPT Live, a new generation of voice models that make talking with AI feel much more like having a real conversation. GPT Live is built on a full duplex architecture, meaning it can listen and speak at the same time. During conversations, GPT can show it's paying attention with phrases like, yeah, engage in a quick back and forth, or just stay quiet when you need a moment to think. The result is a voice experience that is refreshingly easy to talk to. GPT Live is also our smartest voice model yet. For questions that require web search, deeper reasoning, or more complex work, it delegates to our latest frontier model behind the scenes and brings the results back into the conversation when it's ready. While it works, GPT Live can keep talking with you and maintain the flow of the conversation. At launch, GPT Live will use GPT 5.5 in the background. As we release new frontier models, we'll continuously update the models used by GPT Live. So, like I said, huge news. My gosh, I've been waiting for this because I've tried to find actual business, right? Whether I'm taking a walk or, out in the car, or if I just like want to take a break from looking at a screen. I've tried every single, voice model from all the big players. I think when Google's Gemini Live came out, it was okay, but Gemini Live actually does a bad job, strangely enough, at querying information from Google. Right. So I am excited. I've gotten to play with this one a little bit, but it is brand spanking new. So who has access? Well, everyone. So if you are on the free plan, even on ChatGPT, you do have access to this. It does use technically the mini version of GPT Live 1, but even free users. So 1 billion people. Yeah. 1 billion. That is how many weekly active users OpenAI has inside of ChatGPT. So 1 billion people just got a brand new, huge upgrade in what you can do with AI, right? And then on the paid tiers, you do get the full GPT Live 1 model. So it is live now. Make sure your app is updated, and then you just go and tap the voice button and you're off to the races. So why is this useful? Well, it removes the dead air that made the old voice mode feel robotic, right? You would always kind of, interrupt each other. You're waiting. It cuts in when you don't want it to, right? It was just all voice models were really, really bad. Now, not the case anymore. And this is genuinely usable hands-free for brainstorming, tutoring, and live Q&A where interruption actually matters. So who's going to find it valuable? Well, anyone using ChatGPT while you're driving, walking, cooking, packing for a trip. I think there's a lot of, cool use cases that with it being able to reason and look things up in real time that we just didn't have before. Right. And we've seen rumors over the last year or so that, OpenAI was working on some hardware devices. Those things, allegedly got tabled. The Johnny Ives, IO acquisition. So maybe this is the model that will power future OpenAI hardware when and if that comes. If so, that makes a lot of sense. Because I think right now Google Home with Gemini is the only one that has a true smart AI home speaker. And even the difference now between GPT-Live and Gemini Home, I mean, GPT-Live is in another field, at least for now. We'll see what the rest of the labs do. So pretty big news there. Let's go on to our second update, which is technically related. So this is kind of the developer version of this model. So from OpenAI, they also released the day before. So they released this on Tuesday, 2 new API voice models. These are called GPT Real-Time 2.1 and then the budget-friendly GPT Real-Time 2.1 Mini. So this allows you to add adjustable reasoning, depth, native tool calling, and better handling of alphanumerics. Right? Things like, ordering numbers, codes, etc., silence, noise, and interruptions. So OpenAI did say they also cut latency in this voice model by 25%. And this is for developers, right? So if you are using the back end of the OpenAI platform, this was launched, like I said, this week, and it is generally available. You can use it in the OpenAI playground. But this isn't like a consumer feature. So this isn't what you're going to, log into ChatGPT. In that aspect, you're using the new GPT-Live model. For builders, you are using the GPT Real-Time Now 2.1. So who's going to, why is this useful? Who's going to find it valuable? I think developers, product teams who are building voice agents, right, call center automation, anyone working on a cost-sensitive voice startup. So even if you're not a true developer, right, this is something I'm going to be using because I've wanted to build something. It probably doesn't take long. Maybe I'll do it as a live show once. It's just hard to sometimes use my phone and audio when I'm trying to do things that require audio. Anyways, I've wanted to build a simple computer control agent that I can talk to and say, hey, open this, open that, right? So kind of like what I do in Codex, I dictate to Codex, but I thought, hey, it'd be cool if I just had an assistant that lives and it's always on and always listening, and I can just talk to it and it can do anything that, the OpenAI models can do. So that's an example of something that you could build, and you can do it fairly easily just, using Codex. So developers, product teams are going to find it useful. But I mean, why it's actually useful is, well, the lower latency and then the built-in tools mean that any voice agents that you or your team build will actually feel real time instead of laggy. All right. Let's go on our third one. We have a new model. Is it in the frontier? Maybe. We'll see. We don't have a lot of benchmarks yet, but let's talk about what we do know about Grok 4.5, the new model hot off the presses. So this is XAI, or are they called SpaceX AI now? I don't even know. I think they're just XAI, right? So this is their newest flagship model, tuned hard for software engineering and multi-step agentic work. So the headline claim is this: XAI says that it uses 4 times fewer tokens than comparable models on average. So although this isn't something that's benchmarking off the charts, it is somewhat comparable. As an example, I'm looking at their announcement post here on Deep Sui 1.1, which is, I think, one of the best software engineering benchmarks. It's not great, but it's, at least in the tier with, Fable, GPT-5.5, and Opus 4.8. Same thing with Terminal Bench. It's much more competitive. It's actually ahead of Opus 4.8 and pretty close there to GPT-5.5 and Fable as well. And then SweetBench Pro, same thing, a little ahead of the Opus models and GPT-5.5 there. So great model specifically, I think, for software engineering. So here is what Grok says. They said, today we're launching Grok 4.5. Yeah, there we go. SpaceXAI's. See, is this XAI or SpaceXAI? They say it both ways. Anyways, this is SpaceX AI's smartest model built to excel at coding, agentic tasks, and knowledge work. It is our strongest model ever and was trained alongside Cursor. More on that here in a second. So they say real world engineering excellence. Grok 4.5 was trained on data sets spanning knowledge in coding, science, engineering, and math with both intelligent and efficient reasoning. Grok 4.5 excels at real engineering tasks and exceeds comparable leading models at these tasks. So a little bit more to know. Well, right now, where can you use this? So, well, you can use it in the Grok app, but the access depends on what plan you're on. So free users get like hardly nothing. So if you're on a paid plan, you will have some limited use of Grok 4.5, or if you're using Grok Build. So why is it useful? Well, hey, we'll see how the third-party benchmarks look, right? I'll be looking at artificial analysis. Cost to run the test is always one of the most telling benchmarks. But if this is true, if you are able, at least on the software engineering side, able to get, Opus, 5.5 level output level intelligence at, about a fourth of the cost, that's pretty big, right? So this is probably not going to be a model that, your whole team jumps in on and you're using it for all kind of things, but this could in the future aim to be a specialist dev software engineering model, especially with Cursor, right? So SpaceX acquired Cursor as part of, XAI, SpaceX going public. And the thing that they have that's a huge advantage is they have compute, right? Them and Meta have tons of compute. They're one of probably the only, quote unquote AI companies that just have compute to spare. That's why they're running it out and they've become kind of a neo cloud. But this and that combined with Cursor is going to be a big deal. So Cursor working with the XAI or SpaceX AI team. I'm sure that Grok and Cursor's model, Composer 2.5, are going to start to intertwine and, learn from each other. But I would probably be more interested in Composer 3 than Grok 4.5. But regardless, for a lot of people, if you're out there building, you do at least have a new model to take a look at. All right, we have a lot more to get to, but first, quick break for a word from our partners.
Here's what most AI tools still can't do: work outside their own little box. The all-new Slackbot just changed that. It's your AI teammate inside Slack, and now it can read, write, and act across the other apps your team already uses. No more tool switching, no more re-explaining yourself every time you open a new tab. One ops team at Engine says the summary feature alone saves them 15 to 20 minutes a use. See what Slackbot can do at slack.com.
All right, let's keep it going for our Friday features on Thursday. Yeah, during that ad read, I don't know if you've ever done this where you have an old coffee, but you didn't know it was old, and then I almost spit it out. Yeah, that'll wake you up. All right, our next AI feature, Notion Agents, a dedicated iPhone app. So here's what's new, why it matters, and who's going to find it valuable. So this is a brand new standalone iPhone app from Notion, which is separate from the main Notion app. And this is out now. It is released and it's built purely for running Notion's AI agents. So you can capture by text, voice note, or photo, and then agents answer from your docs and connected tools and can take actions like creating pages, drafting updates, and running team workflows. And this is obviously model flexible, so it can work with Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever your team uses. So who has access? Well, it is live on the App Store. So it is iPhone first right now, and it does run on iPad and Mac, but isn't really designed for them, and no Android announcement yet. So no pricing, dedicated pricing, but if you do have a paid, your company has a paid Notion plan, you're in, right? So it does. Notion's agent and AI features, for the most part, do require a paid plan, and those go anywhere from, about $10 to $20 per user per month. So it does tie into your existing paid plan. So why is it useful? Well, it lets you fire off workspace tasks and capture ideas from your phone instead of waiting to get to a desk. And then the voice and the photo capture kind of kill the friction of logging things on mobile. So who's going to find this valuable? Well, if you are a team that uses Notion, and Notion has been, I think, crushing it on the AI side, right? I think Notion and Slack are two companies that, a year and a half ago, if you would have said, hey, would they be in this kind of like second tier? I would have said probably not, but sure enough, I think Notion, Slack, and some others are, really creeping up in terms of capabilities and what they can do. So, if your team is on Notion and you haven't started yet taking advantage of their agentic features, they're actually really, really good, right? And met with a couple weeks ago when I was out in San Francisco, I actually met with the Notion team out there, and they're working on some pretty capable offerings. So it is something to keep an eye on. So although I'm not super sure, right? I'm not a Power Notion user myself. I've used it, off and on throughout the years. I'm not certain about the separate app. So I'm not sure why it's not just built into their normal app and then having an agents section. I'm sure there's some, technical reason why, but we'll see if that sticks, if it gets popular, if it doesn't, etc. All right, next. This one, again, this might be for a smaller audience, but it's something that I think could make a big deal. So Google Voice AI. Yeah. So I think for a lot of small business owners, if you don't know Google Voice, it is a way to just get a phone number, a phone line for your company in like 2 minutes and for super cheap. And now they're rolling out a ton of new, very helpful AI features. So Google Voice has added Gemini-powered Take Notes for Me, right? So you can just tap notes mid-call and it records and transcribes everything automatically. And then after the call, you get a summary with key points and action items, plus the full transcript and audio. And then the notes arrive as an email link. So here is what Google said about this new feature. So they say Google Voice launched over 15 years ago as a call forwarding and texting service within the US. Since then, it has evolved into a trusted global communications platform for users and businesses alike. We're taking the next step in that evolution. We're bringing the power of AI note-taking directly to your phone calls and introducing new plans designed to help users scale their businesses with a professional-grade phone system at an industry-leading price. So this does require a paid Google Voice Standard or Premier plan. So the free starter tier does not include it. Right now, it's English only for users in the US. I'm sure that will change here soon. All right. So, well, why is it useful? So if you, which I do know a lot of small businesses that use Google Voice, right? So I guess the downside is, well, it's been behind some of the other, VoIP providers out there that have had some AI features before them. So not saying this is going to be a differentiator for businesses, but especially for small businesses that are out in the field, they have physical locations. This one's a big one. So, it is able to, turn all those phone calls into searchable records and, ready-made follow-up tasks with zero manual note-taking. So the standalone pricing also, if you're a solo operator, if you have a side hustle, small business, I think it's a way to cheaply bring some AI, especially if you're a type of business that's on the phone all the time. All right. Our next AI update. Yeah. ChatGPT Images, their new Images 2.0 model, that's been absolutely dominating since it came out. No one has been able to touch the OpenAI GPT Images 2 model when it comes to all benchmarks, but they may have company near the top, not passing them yet, but at least now a more serious contender. So this is ByteDance, their new model, Dream 5.0 Pro. So this is ByteDance's new image model built to understand design, not just generate images. So that, at least from some of the samples that I've seen, seems to be kind of where they're pushing heavy in. So adding that understanding or reasoning layer to image generation and not just having it be, this diffusion technology that just decides what pixels go where. Some of the more impressive examples that I'll kind of scroll to for our our live stream audience here, so as an example, showing like the 6 major types of tea, right? But it has to be able to reason and think and break that down. There's a brewing temperature breakdown, kind of a oxidation level. So there's a lot of reasoning and logic and thinking and planning that goes into some of these images, right? So if you think about things that might be used as an infographic for your company, it's just strong imagery that can really support a more visual story. This, is probably now in that top 3, I think, along with Nano Banana Pro and GPT Images 2. You now have Seed Dance, Seed Dream, not Seed Dance. Seed Dance is the video. Seed Dream is the photo version. All right. So it also adds that data and infographic visualization from dense text, interactive precision editing, and stronger photorealism and native generation in 10 languages. But one of the standout features, I think, is a layer separation piece. So it edges toward it being kind of like a design tool, not just like a prompt box. So if you've ever used, Canva or Photoshop and having all these different layers and being able to adjust it via layers versus as a flat image is going to save a lot of time and give you more granular control. So this is announced and it is available inside ByteDance's own apps right now. So these are probably not apps that you use, but it's in Dreamania. And then for Chinese users, it's in Jimeng. So for international users, you can download the Dreamania app from ByteDance. Right now, there is no public API available yet, but there are some third-party platforms, that are conglomerates where you can use a bunch of the different, I think Fall is one of them. Is it Fall or FAL, FAL, or is it FAI? Right. So there's a bunch of these third-party ones that have it. So if you really do want to get your hands on it, if you use one of those third-party, AI image generators that have model selection, you're probably going to see it in there. So why is it useful? Well, like I said, it is instantly a top 3, maybe top 2 image model. So it turns data and dense text into clean on-brand layouts. So if for whatever reason, if you can't use ChatGPT, or if you are a heavy into marketing, design, advertising, and you're not getting the results that you like out of Nano Banana or GPT Images 2, you now have another player to at least try. So also, multilingual teams, if you need text accurate output across different languages, designers, marketers, content teams who are producing, infographics and branded visuals. This is definitely a new AI feature you can use now that you're going to want to check out. All right. And then last but not least, Meta is back again. Meta's back. Tell some friends. All right. So let me just get this out there. Meta, when they came out with their, they have their MSL, their Meta Superintelligence Labs. They spent, billions of dollars hiring all this talent, billions of dollars on compute. And then, everyone thought, oh, we're going to get a new llama. Instead, they went a different direction with the Muse. That is their large language model. And there's some rumors that they're coming out with a bigger version of it. So we have Muse Spark, which is presumably, that came out about 2 months ago. And that's their smaller model. And actually, at the time it came out, through a lot of benchmarks, it was maybe like a top 4 or 5 model. Not anymore. Right now, it's probably in the 8, 9, 10 range after a lot of new updates from all the other big players. But you can't knock Meta for going from like 0 to top 5 with their first large language model in Muse. So they've actually done the same thing with Muse Image and Muse Video. Because if you're looking at Arena, right, which is kind of the blind taste test for image and video models, these are top 3 models, right? So going from 0, never having, at least under the Muse family, I know they did have, their image models previously, but, they scrapped everything, started, gotten rid of the llama baseline. So pretty interesting results for our, live stream audience. You can see some of these examples. We shared them in our newsletter. pretty good both on the photo and the video side. So here's a little bit what it is, what's new. So Muse Image is Meta Superintelligence's Labs first, or MSL, their first in-house image model built as an agent that can use search and code execution to self-refine its output. So kind of the maybe controversial but signature feature is you can generate or manipulate images of a public Instagram account just by tagging it, right? So you kind of had this originally in Sora from OpenAI, which is no longer RIP Sora. They had this thing called cameos, right? But people had to open up, right? Like, yes, you can use my cameo, but it looks like if you're a certain level of public Instagram account, people can do it just by tagging you. All right. So Muse Video is built on the same foundation with native audio, but is still in development. So no release on that. So this is on the images side, it is free for everyday creation if you are using the Meta AI app. Or meta.ai inside Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, all those things. You should see the new Meta Muse image model available. But heavy users are going to pay. So there is a kind of a free daily usage threshold, and then it rolls into the new Meta paid subscription plans. They didn't disclose the exact limit or price. Again, this is pretty new, but there's no public API right now. So if you're not on a paid Meta plan, which I don't know anyone that's on a paid Meta subscription. I know they just rolled that out a couple of months ago. Unless your business like runs on Meta and Instagram, I don't know anyone that's actually subscribing to Meta for AI features, right? So it will be worth tracking when and if they come out on the API side, because at least the samples of the video model and the photo model look really good. Right. But if it's fairly limited to what you can use for free, I don't know how much traction this is going to get. Right. Especially when presumably we may be getting within, 3 to 6 months, we may be getting brand new updates to GPT images and to Nano Banana. So at that point, and, we just talked about the new, image model Seed Dream from ByteDance. So I don't know if I was Meta, I would have came out a little more hard, like, hey, use this thing, use it a ton, because the results are pretty good. And like I said, Arena, I believe once they were released, they were both top 3, top 4, image and video models. So fairly impressive. So why is it useful? Well, number one, it's free right now, limited use, and it lives inside apps that billions of people already use. So this is no new tool to learn. It's just in the apps that people use. Also interesting to see how this plays out, but the agentic self-refinement aims for just kind of more accurate, less hallucinated images. So I think the people or the groups that are going to find this most valuable, especially early on, is if your job right now requires, right, if you're a social media manager, social media marketer, then you obviously are living inside and, living and breathing on your, Meta metrics. This is going to be for you, right? So versus having to work with an external tool, Meta's obviously made this, this earlier technology available in their ads. I would assume that we'll see that here soon as well. So if you are a content creator, social media marketing, social media advertising, and you lay heavily on any of the Meta, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp platforms, this is going to be one worth checking out. All right. So that is a wrap, y'all. Our 7 big features. Let's do them in reverse order. So the new Meta Muse image and video models, ByteDance's new Seed Dream 5.0 Pro on the image side, Google Voice AI, great for small businesses, Notion Agents dedicated iPhone app for teams using Notion, Grok 4.5 new model could be good for software engineering. OpenAI Real-Time 2.1, the update to GPT Real-Time 2.0 can do a lot of things agentically. And then last but not least, which I think may ultimately end up making the biggest difference for millions of business users, is the new GPT-Live model. So I'll probably end up doing a review on that. But Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the curveball again, right? Last week we had the July 4th observed holiday. This week we're switching it up. So tomorrow we can do the show on Sol, GPT-5.6 Sol. So make sure to join us for that. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
Here's the thing about AI at work. You can't use what you don't trust. The all-new Slack bot runs inside Slack's security boundary, only sees what you've already allowed it to see, and never trains on your data. Personal AI agent with the trust to actually put it to work. Slackbot from Slack. Learn more at slack.com.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.